We're talking with neighbors in this Jessamine County neighborhood about just what happened leading up to this morning's fatal fight.
After petitions, letters, and an outcry, the state does an about-face, now saying Lexington's probation and parole office will not move near a residential area.
Well, they are Kentucky's top guns in Washington, but who do voters think is doing the better job? The new WKYT Herald Leader Bluegrass poll has a scorecard for Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul.
Tracking, alerting, protecting. This is WKYT News at 5.
Good afternoon. We are learning some new details about a murder investigation in Jessamine County. Family members are telling us now that a young boy witnessed his father's death at the hands of a neighbor.
It happened this morning at a home on Hartley Drive off Tates Creek Road near the Fayette County line. Deputies tell us they were called to the home for a report of a fight. When they got there, they found a man's body on the back porch. WKYT's Kristen Kennedy is tracking the investigation in our top story at 5.
Neighbors say early this morning they heard a child screaming back behind Thomas Carson's home. One neighbor ran over to try and stop what he saw happening.
He said he looked out the window and that's when he seen them fighting.
Connie Carter's husband told her he saw their neighbor Carson fighting with another neighbor, Shane Washington. Carson, she says, had an axe. Her husband wasn't able to stop the fight or save Washington.
Tom's got a mental problem, but I mean, we've learned to deal with it. You know, us and the neighbors, we've learned to deal with it, and then wake up this morning and you got this.
One of Washington's daughters says the whole family had just recently returned from a reunion.
It was so nice to us, and we just got back from a family reunion not that long ago, so everybody got to see him. Everybody was having such a good day, and then a couple days later we found out somebody killed our daddy.
Investigators are charging Carson with murder. We checked his record. Back in 2013, he pleaded guilty to a charge of terroristic threatening. He was also the complaining witness in 2 cases against 2 of his neighbors. He claimed they were stalking and harassing him. Washington's family is still working out funeral arrangements. In Jessamine County, Kristen Kennedy, WKYT.
Neighbors say one of Washington's sons witnessed his death. The sheriff's office is working with social services to make sure the child is okay.
After some people in the neighborhood became upset this week, the state has decided not to move Lexington's probation and parole office to a building in the Palomar Center. We first reported Wednesday about the possible move. The state said it was relocating the office from downtown Lexington because it needed more space. Well, people who live in the area sent petitions and letters to the governor, upset the proposed location was in a residential area near a daycare and school bus stops. Today, the state said another site would be better for both clients of the office and the community. That new site has not yet been announced. Lexington police are looking for a person who broke into a home and in the process somehow caused a gas leak. We're told that about 10 this morning, someone broke into a house on Addison Drive. That's across from the Red Mile racetrack. Police tell us the property manager noticed the back door open. There was some damage done to the inside of the house. The burglary not only resulted in a gas leak, but cut power to a couple of homes on that street.
I could see it happening. You know, it leads right to the golf course. And so a lot of criminals that do that stuff, you always see the cops back here looking through the golf course. So I could see it happening. It's scary.
An officer on the scene tells us the house is a rental home and the owners are trying to get it ready for the incoming college students. At last check, no one had been arrested.
For the second time this summer, a historical marker with ties to the Civil War has been vandalized in Lexington. A sign at Cheapside Park noting Lexington's slave trading history was knocked over and broken. As WKYT's Rebecca Smith reports, the city is now trying to find out if the act is connected to the debate over some Civil War statues and markers in Lexington.
So here at Short and Upper Street in downtown Lexington is where this marker stood. You can see now it's just a bunch of grass and dirt. The search is on now to try to find out who vandalized this marker. The slavery marker is one of several historic landmarks under scrutiny following the deadly church shooting rampage in Charleston, South Carolina. Betty Kerr is the historic preservation officer for the city and has no idea at this point if the vandalism is connected. It happened over the weekend. The marker was basically just torn into two pieces. The repair could take a few months, leaving the Arts Review Board time to get feedback from a meeting set for late August to decide what to do with the marker.
There's the opportunity to further evaluate if they want to tighten up the text that's in the one that has now been broken. That could certainly be done since it is going to have to be recast.
City spokesperson Susan Straub tells me they are looking into the remote possibility this could potentially be related to some similar crimes in the western part of our state in which the thieves stole the markers to be traded for scrap metal. In downtown Lexington, Rebecca Smith, WKYT.
Late this afternoon, the city told us they will replace the sign. Its future will still be discussed at a public meeting about it. Another Civil War markers, which has now been moved to September 21st.
Finally, it feels like we've been waiting all summer for a perfect weather weekend, and this one may be it.
Great end to July, sunny and clear skies, and we expect a repeat this weekend. WKYT meteorologist Jim Caldwell is in the First Alert Weather Center with an early look at the forecast. Jim?
It's not what you would expect for this time of year. You would expect daytime highs coming in around 90. Heat index values closer to 100. But we aren't even close to either one of those. We're only at 85 right now in Lexington. We look outside and all across Kentucky, and you're going to see that. You're going to see those temperatures down to some comfortable levels. You can see some of that traffic along 75 as well, where we've had some issues. 85 down the road in Corbin, 86 in Frankfort, mix of sun and clouds anywhere you look. Just a great end to the month. We're looking at Defender, too, and it's fine. We picked up enough rain for the entire month to do it, so why not get a last couple of days in nice and dry. No precipitation showing up anywhere you see across central or eastern Kentucky. As we look through the 24-hour planner, we're talking 82 at 8 o'clock. Notice how quickly, though, we drop to 72. Lack of humidity being so oppressive in the air will allow the temperatures to drop because humidity keeps temperatures up a little bit, or at least sustains them. By tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, back into the mid-80s with, again, low humidity levels. But we'll track a little more in the forecast. I'll take a closer look at that coming up for you in just a few minutes.
A piece of airplane wreckage possibly belonging to a missing Malaysian jetliner is making its way to France for analysis.
Investigators are hoping it will shed some light on what happened to Flight 370. CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti is on the French island of Reunion with the latest.
This 6-foot wing fragment was shipped from Reunion Island to France, where investigators will determine if it is part of the missing Malaysian jetliner. Sources tell CBS News Boeing investigators are confident the part, called a flaperon, came from one of its 777s, and MH370 is the only 777 missing in the world.
The BEA, the French version of the NTSB that will soon be examining this, will get every bit of evidence, every clue they can get out of looking at that piece.
MH370 disappeared over the Indian Ocean 16 months ago with 239 people on board. The wife of the chief steward on the flight says she has been counting the days until she finally gets some answers.
A closure would be nice, and although I don't have anybody to bury it, but at least I know what really happened.
Oceanographers say strong counterclockwise currents are capable of carrying wreckage thousands of miles in the Indian Ocean. Cleaning crews are now scouring the beaches here in Reunion looking for other possible debris. Workers also found part of a suitcase, a Chinese water bottle, and an Indonesian cleaning product. Experts say anything washing up on the shore should now be examined more thoroughly. Jonathan Vigliotti, CBS News, Reunion Island.
The National Transportation Safety Board says it is sending 2 members over to France early next week to help in the investigation.
A Cincinnati prosecutor says a grand jury has decided not to charge 2 other University of Cincinnati police officers who responded to the traffic stop in which another officer shot and killed a driver. Today's announcement comes one day after former UC officer Ray Tensing pleaded not guilty to murder and voluntary manslaughter in the shooting death of Samuel DuBose. Tensing's attorney has said his client thought he was going to be dragged under DuBose's car. The prosecutor says the 2 officers' official statements matched what was shown on Tensing's body camera.
The new WKYT Herald Leader Bluegrass poll looks at Kentucky's clout on Capitol Hill. Senators Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul are two of the biggest names in Washington. New at 5, WKYT political reporter Bill Bryant breaks down what Kentuckians think of their two U.S. senators.
Well, they are two of the biggest names in Washington. Kentucky Senators Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. McConnell is the nation's top-ranking Republican. As Senate Majority Leader, he can derail presidential plans or bring the GOP agenda to the forefront in D.C. Paul has gone from Tea Party favorite to a contender for the Republican presidential nomination. The new WKYT Herald Leader poll found 15% say McConnell is doing the better job. 25% said Paul. While 16% said they are both doing good jobs, the most people, 37%, said neither is. Looking ahead to the 2016 presidential race, the Bluegrass poll found Paul is just 2 percentage points ahead of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in a potential head-to-head matchup here.
It's really surprising, I think. This is the second poll in a row that has shown the two of them essentially tied here in the state. When we did it in May, it was 45-45. Now it's 44-42. I think this has been a tough summer for Senator Rand Paul's presidential hopes. It got off to a rocky start and has never really recovered. And what you're starting to see now here in sort of the twilight of summer are a lot of national media types asking, well, gosh, is this the end for Rand Paul? Has he sort of hit his ceiling?
Now ahead on WKYT News at 6, from Attorney General to Ag Commissioner, we'll reveal the results in several key statewide races. For the Bluegrass poll, Survey USA talked to 1,000 people across Kentucky between July 22nd and 28th. Bill Bryant, WKYT.
The lawyer for the man accused of gunning down 9 people at a black church in Charleston, South Carolina, says his client wants to plead guilty to 33 federal charges.
Dylan Roof was arraigned this afternoon in federal court. Today, his defense attorney entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. Roof's attorney says before he pleads guilty, he wants to know whether prosecutors intend to seek the death penalty. Part of the U.S. Capitol had to be secured this morning after a car slammed into a barricade outside the Longworth House office building. Investigators say a Florida man crashed his Nissan Altima into a barricade about 100 yards from the entrance to the U.S. Capitol. The driver was arrested. U.S. Capitol Police say it remains unclear if he intentionally rammed the barricade. The House was not in session and no lawmakers or bystanders were threatened.
The State Department released thousands of pages of emails today from Hillary Clinton's time as Secretary of State, many of which included sensitive information. The 2,200 emails are from Clinton's personal account when she was Secretary of State. They were released after a federal judge slammed the agency this week, saying it had not been anywhere near aggressive enough.
There were monthly goals, as you note, and we fell short this month. We need to obviously be fast. We need to make every effort to meet these deadlines, but we also need to be accurate and make sure other agencies' equities are taken into consideration.
Of the 55,000 pages of emails released today, there are more than 60 passages that were blocked from being published to protect national security secrets. Clinton has repeatedly said she never sent classified information. The African country of Zimbabwe has started the process of extraditing an American dentist back there to face charges in the killing of a protected lion. Investigators say the lion, named Sissel, was lured out of a national park to be shot with a bow and then a gun. A diplomat with Zimbabwe says they hope extradition will be a last resort, but they're moving forward with that process.
It's time for Better Living, health, education, and consumer news that impacts your life. Thousands of stressed out Americans are finding a new type of relaxation. Flotation therapy is catching on, where customers float in warm tanks of salty water to cure both their mind and body. Weijia Zhang tells us how it works.
Venice Grossman deals with a lot of stress in her job as a high school English teacher. She stays afloat by floating.
It can be as simple as relaxing and closing your eyes and giving yourself some time and space to be alone.
Grossman is now a regular at Float in New Jersey. Tanks are filled with warm water and enough Epsom salt to keep the body completely buoyant. Owner Tom Bazis charges $49 for an hour-long float.
There's people coming in for pain relief. There's people coming in to relieve some stress and anxiety.
The critical part of the experience is sensory deprivation. The floating chamber is pitch black inside and soundproof. Some customers worry about claustrophobia, but Sam Zeiger, owner of Blue Light Flotation, says total isolation is key.
You come out and you are amazingly clear, and it's the sense of everything in the world being fresh and new and sparkling.
The trend is catching on. There are more than 270 float centers around the country, with about 9 new ones opening each month. Grossman says she's now taking the plunge at least once a month. Weijia Zhang, CBS News, New York.
The owner of New Jersey Float says the amount of salt in the water kills germs, but the bath is also filtered between users. It turns out Americans have been cutting calories but are still far from eating healthy. A recent study found in 2010 the average adult ate nearly 100 fewer calories a day than 7 years before in 2003. Despite the decrease in calories, there has not been a real increase in healthy eating. Americans are still eating too much fast food and foods with added sugar and not enough fruits and vegetables. It seems like such a simple part of your morning routine, but new research suggests applying your deodorant at night makes it more effective. An article in The Verge says our body temperature is raised and you sweat more in the morning as you're getting ready or rushing to get ready. At night, we produce less sweat, so antiperspirant deodorant will have a better chance to soak into the skin and sweat glands. If you use it at bedtime, experts say a single application of deodorant will last an entire 24 hours, even if you have a shower in between.